All right, let's dive in. We're going on a journey today, a builder's journey to be exact. We're going to walk through how to create a modern generative AI chat app right from the ground up. Let's do it. You know that feeling, right? You're talking to a chatbot, you ask a totally reasonable question, and you just get stuck. You hit a brick wall. That whole frustrating dead-end experience, that's exactly what we're going to leave in the past. And this really shows the huge difference we're talking about. Look at the basic bot. It's completely lost outside its little pre-programmed world. It just throws up its hands and says, I don't know. But a GenAI app, it's a whole other ballgame. It actually engages. It'll ask you for more context, maybe even offer a smart guess. The key thing is, it keeps that conversation going. So let's get into it. The starting point. The big idea here is we're moving way beyond those old, rigid, predefined scripts. We're stepping into a world where our apps can actually think on their feet, generating brand new, context-aware responses, in real time. But here's the thing. It's not just about making it smarter. That's only part of the puzzle. The real goal is creating a fantastic experience. And that's a serious balancing act. Yeah, you need it to be intelligent, but it also has to be quick, it has to be reliable, and honestly, it just needs to be a pleasure to use. Okay, so where do we even begin with all this? Well, the first big phase is all about laying a super solid foundation. We're talking about the core components, and maybe, most importantly, getting that user experience right from the very beginning. All right, your first step, and this is a big one. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Seriously, before you write a single line of code from scratch, look around and see what's already out there. Things like existing APIs, think of them as pre-built communication channels, and SDKs, which are basically toolkits for developers. Grabbing these is a huge head start. It lets you tap into some seriously powerful features right away, so you can pour your energy into what makes your app special. When you're designing the chat experience itself, it really boils down to three key things. First, it has to remember what you just talked about. That's maintaining context. Second, if the AI says something a little vague, you need a way to ask for clarification, right? And third, personalization. You want to give users the power to tweak the responses to get exactly what they need. And this is a big one, something you can't overlook, making it usable for everyone. A truly great app is an accessible app. So you've got to be thinking about features like resizable text, making sure it works with screen readers, maybe even adding voice commands. It's not an add-on. It's about building an inclusive experience right from the start. All right, so you've got your foundation built. It's solid. Now you come to a major fork in the road, a real customization crossroads. The question is, how do you teach your app about your specific world? Your company's data, your product manuals, whatever it is. And for that, you've got two main paths to choose from. One is called fine-tuning, and the other is a really cool technique called RAG. So let's look at fine-tuning first. The best way to think about this is like sending your general-purpose AI model to grad school, or maybe medical school. You take this already smart, pre-trained model and you put it through a specialized training program using your own specific data. This could be your company's internal slang or super technical documents. The goal is to turn it from a jack-of-all-trades into a true specialist. The process is pretty straightforward, at least in theory. It's basically 4 steps. First, you pick your base model. Then you get all your specialized training data ready. And just a heads up, this is usually the hardest, most time-consuming part. After that, you set a few parameters, and then you kick off the training. What you get at the end is a brand new expert model ready to get to work. Okay, so that's one path. The other one is called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or just RAG for short. And this is a completely different way of thinking about it. Instead of retraining the model, which is a lot of work, you're essentially giving it an open book test. You just hand it a library of all your documents, and it can look things up in real time to find the answers. Let's walk through how this actually works step by step. So it all kicks off when a user types a question into your app. Now, here's the clever part. The question doesn't go straight to the big AI brain. First, your system zips over to your private knowledge base, your library, and finds the most relevant documents to answer that specific question. Then, and this is where the magic really happens, the large language model gets 2 things at once. It gets the user's original question, and it gets those documents we just pulled. And finally, it puts it all together. It uses those documents as its source of truth to create a smart, accurate answer that's grounded in your specific data. And that's what gets sent back to the user. Pretty cool, right? So let's put these two side by side. The key takeaway is this.
Fine-tuning actually changes the model itself. It's like teaching it a new skill that becomes part of its brain. RAG doesn't change the model at all. It just gives it information to read at the exact moment it needs it. A huge advantage of RAG? Since you're just pointing it out a library, you can keep that information totally up to date without ever having to go through a whole retraining process again.
Okay, so your app is built, it's specialized, but you're not done. Not even close. Building it is really just the beginning. Now we have to talk about the long run, how to keep this thing running smoothly, performing great, and just as importantly, operating ethically. And when it comes to user experience, speed is everything. Every single second, every millisecond counts. Response time is such a critical metric. Think about it. How long does your user have to sit there waiting for an answer? That tiny little delay can be the difference between an app they love and an app they close and never open again. Speed is one thing, but you also have to track accuracy, obviously. But you know what's just as important? How users feel about the app. Are they actually happy with the answers? You can get this with direct feedback, sure, but the real key is to take what you learn and feed it right back into the app. It's all about creating this constant loop of improvement. And that brings us to what is, honestly, the most important part of this whole journey, using this technology responsibly. This isn't just a checkbox. It's about actively building trust with your users. It's about making sure your app is inclusive, that you're doing everything you can to prevent harm, and of course, protecting their data. These have to be core principles, not afterthoughts. All right, let's bring this all home. We've really walked through the entire builder's journey from start to finish. Think about what we've covered. You now have the roadmap to go from one of those basic, frustrating bots to a truly specialized, high-quality application. You know how to build a great user experience, how to make your app an expert with techniques like fine-tuning or RAG, and how to keep it running great for the long haul with a sharp eye on performance and responsibility. And that leaves us with one final big question to think about. After all the code is written, after the app is out in the world, that's when the real work actually begins. Because look, it's one thing to make your application smart. That's a technical challenge. But it is a whole other level of challenge to make it trustworthy. So the question I'll leave you with is, how are you going to rise to that challenge?